Welcome to another week of the Imagine Your Story Summer Reading Program. My name is Mary Ann Wright, and I'm a 4-H area educator with Lincoln University Cooperative Extension. I am happy to be joining the Caruthersville Public Library as we discuss different types of imagined stories as seen in classic children's literature. This week we will be discussing FolkTales. Like some of the other types of imagined stories that we have discussed, folk tales are very old stories that have been passed down over time. Usually these stories were shared in the oral tradition, which means they were passed down by word of mouth. Most folk tales are so old that we do not know the original authors, but they share universal themes and cultural values. Every human society has its own folk tales. These well-known stories are an important way of passing along information, knowledge, and history. Although each culture has its own set of stories, sometimes they are very similar to other cultures' versions of the stories. We can see this in the classic tale, Little Red Riding Hood. I found this book at the local library, and it has 3 different stories from across the world, and they all have a very similar theme. In Germany, we read the story Little Red Riding Hood, which is very similar to the classic tale that we know. But then we go to Italy, where there's an evil ogress who has taken the place of Grandma and is trying to trick the little girl. Then in the Taiwanese version, we have a ferocious tiger instead of the big bad wolf. Even though there are different characters and settings in these stories, they all have a similar theme. Now, let's talk about what a folktale is. Folktales are usually stories about ordinary people and everyday life. They can include animals, but typically the main characters of a folktale are humans. These stories usually have a problem that the characters are trying to figure out or something that they're trying to overcome. Oftentimes in folktales, the characters are pretty simple. There's not a lot of dimension to them. Usually you know exactly who is a good character and exactly who is a bad character. In folk tales, the evil or the bad character always loses. In folk tales, we really are trying to connect with the readers. The author and the original storytellers of these stories were trying to relay a message. So this could have been a moral or a lesson, or it could be to teach the reader something. In folk tales, we often see this rule of 3, or this repetition of 3. So there's sometimes 3 main characters in a lot of these stories. Sometimes there are 3 different distinct things that happen, and we see 3 different tasks that the character is trying to complete. So if we look at Goldilocks and the 3 bears, we have, of course, 3 bears, but we have Goldilocks who is trying out 3 different things. She tries the porridge, and then she tries the chair, and then she tries the bed. 3 different things in that story. We also have in folk tales this idea of repetition, of repeating a phrase over and over. So if we look at Little Red Riding Hood, at the end when she is confronted with the wolf that's pretending to be her grandmother, she says, "What big eyes you have, what big ears you have, what big teeth you have." So this same phrase is being repeated multiple times. And if you notice, it was 3, which I said again, 3 is a very common number that we see in folk tales. This week, we are going to be reading a version of Little Red Riding Hood. And it is a very fun version that has a Cajun twist on it, and it's called Petite Rouge. We're going to be doing this story time tomorrow. The video will post at 1 o'clock here on the Caruthersville Public Library Summer Reading Program page. So I hope that you tune in for that story. And then on Wednesday, we are going to be doing our Take and Make craft. And this week, we are going to make a fun Cajun treat for our treat basket for Grandmere. So this relates back to our story, and we'll be incorporating this idea of folk tales by including a classic regional snack. Now, if you haven't joined the summer reading program yet, I encourage you to go ahead and do so. You can sign up at the Caruthersville Public Library. Each week, we also have our Take and Make activity, and these packs are available for anybody who's enrolled in the program. You just stop by the library and pick up all your supplies. In each of the bags, you also have a dog tag each week. And each week is a different dog tag that you can add to your collection. These are sort of like brag tags to say that you completed this week's activity and listened to the story time. I hope that you are having fun with our Imagine Your Story theme, and I hope that you join me for this week's activities. Okay, guys, see you soon. Bye-bye.